So remember that FireRed Ash video I made a few months back? Well, today is the day to completely forget that exists, because today I'm going to be playing FireRed again with Ash's team, but this time I'm going to try Nuzlocking it. And just an FYI, I've never done one of these before, so experts, get ready to hate this video. If for some reason you don't know what a Nuzlocke is, it's simple. If a Pokemon faints, I can't use it in battle anymore, and I can only catch my first encounter in each area. Well, I'm using Ash's team, so that second rule isn't going to be applied in this video, and since I can't use a Pokemon once it faints, I'm gonna allow myself to use any Pokemon he caught throughout his Kanto journey, just to make it a little more fun and more possible. What team am I gonna have by the end? What terrible mistakes will I make? Well, we're about to find out. Of course, I start the game with Pikachu, who is unfortunately the only electric type I can use, so I'm probably gonna box it later on. Well, if it even makes it that far. Anyway, once I get Pokeballs, I catch my first two team members, Mankey and Caterpie. Butterfree should be decently useful since it has status moves and psychic attacks, and Mankey will obviously be needed for Brock. Viridian Force wasn't anything too bad, although I did keep getting poisoned, which was pretty annoying. I made sure to buy antidotes though, since I wasn't gonna lose a Pokemon from poison. Wow, that's already an improvement. I'm actually prepared. Alright, Brock time. To keep this a little more interesting, I'm gonna try not to overlevel, so there's not gonna be a set level cap, but I'm going to try to stay close to the gym leader's levels. It didn't really matter here though, as Brock was still a total joke. Anyway, shortly after, I make it to Rival 2 without any deaths. I actually ended up having two close calls here though. As you can see, Pidgeotto's quick attack does a lot to Pikachu, so I paralyze it, and then I switch to Mankey after some thinking. Abra and Rattata are obviously easy, and last was Squirtle, and I think using Butterfree would have been the better decision as I again almost lost Mankey. Wow, I need to stop playing recklessly. So obviously you can't catch starters in the wild, so just like last time, I used my super cool hacking skills to make the starters all obtainable in the wild. Honestly though, I think I'll be only using Charmander long term since it's the only one I'm allowed to evolve in this run. Now, I was pretty worried about Misty since I have nothing good for her Starmie. Well, the key to winning this battle ended up being Pidgey. Why? Well, you see, I caught one earlier in the game, but I never planned on using it. Well, I ended up needing it to win the fight. I took out Staryu easily, then switched to Pidgey for Starmie to get a safe switch into Butterfree, letting me put it to sleep, and then it thankfully stayed asleep just long enough for me to 3-shot it. Yeah, if I didn't have Pidgey, I would have lost that fight. Right after that, I catch a Bulbasaur on the route north of Vermilion. I can't evolve it, so I highly doubt I'll be using it much later in the game, but I think it could be useful against Surge with its status moves. Anyway, time for Rival 3 now. I forgot to lead with Pikachu since I was training Charmeleon, but I actually managed to take it out. Second was Wartortle, so I switched to Pikachu and took it out, although I lost some health. Third was Raticate, but it brought Pikachu to red health, so I finished it with Mankey. Last was Kadabra, and this took quite a while since all my decently strong Pokemon were low, so I had to put it to sleep with Butterfree, then chip it down with Tackle. And now it's time for Surge. I trained up Bulbasaur a bit to learn Sleep Powder. Unfortunately, the battle's not off to a great start as I lose 40 HP just with Voltorb since it kept barely surviving. For Pikachu, I switched to Charmeleon to take it out with Ember, although it was dangerously close, and then for Raichu, I switched to Bulbasaur, seeded it, put it to sleep, then finished it off with Mankey. I think I'm gonna need to grab some better team members soon. These battles have been a little too close. Unfortunately though, I'm not going to be able to get any new team members until after getting the Pokeflute, so I'm stuck using this weak team for quite a while. Ash didn't catch a ton of Pokemon throughout his Kanto journey though, so I really need to play it safe with my final members. On the way to Erica though, Mankey evolves. Primeape isn't an amazing fighting type, but it's got good enough offenses to hopefully carry me throughout the rest of the game. Speaking of which, time to beat Erica. My original plan was to just use Butterfree for Victory Bell, then use Charmeleon for the rest of the fight, but I actually ended up winning with only Butterfree. Well, that was a pleasantly easy fight for a change. Next is Giovanni, but I mean, he has two rock types and a normal type, so Primeape made quick work of him. Right after that is Rival 4. He leads with Pidgeotto, so I used Pikachu to one-shot it with Thunderbolt. Second was Growlithe, and Thunderbolt surprisingly didn't one-shot him, so we got in some big damage before going down. Third was Execute, and I had an annoyingly stressful fight against it as it kept putting me to sleep and spamming Confusion, but after some time I took it out. Fourth was Kadabra, so I took a risk and put it to sleep, then used 2 Gusts to take it out. Last was Wartortle, so I put it to sleep, switched to Pikachu, then used Thunderbolt, but it didn't one-shot, so I ended up with just 4 HP. HP. I was a little worried about the Marowak at the top of the tower, but it actually wasn't too bad. It doesn't have anything good for flying types, so Butterfree was able to slowly but surely take it out. But now it's time to say goodbye to the old team because I can finally catch a lot of good team members. Kingler, Snorlax, Muk, and Tauros. And yes, I know that he caught 30 Tauros in the anime, but for obvious reasons I'm only allowed to use one. So with this new team, let's see how Coca goes. I one-shot Coughing with Psybeam, then put Muk to sleep and slowly whittle it down with a few Psybeams. Then I don't one-shot a second Coughing and get so low health by the time I take it out. I yet again take another risk with Sleep Powder, but it hits and I manage to win the fight without losing Butterfree. This is going really good so far. A little too good. After some Silph infiltration, it's time to take on Rival 5. He leads with Pidgeot, so I use Snorlax's Rock Slides to take it out, but I lose 3 attack stages in the process. For his Growlithe, I use Muk to take it out and then 2-shot his Execute. For Alakazam, I switch to Snorlax as he uses his favorite move, Future Sight. Last is Blastoise, but a few Body Slams take it out easily. And with that, I can finally get my next, hopefully, permanent member, Lapras. And now we have the second Giovanni fight, so I lead with Butterfree. I 2-shot Nidorino, and then for Rhyhorn I switch to Primeape to take it out, but I do take quite a bit of damage. Again, I take a risk and use Cross Chop on Kangaskhan, and thankfully it hits and it one-shots. Last is Nidoqueen, so I try to use Psybeam, but it does barely anything. Seeing how low Butterfree is getting, I switch to Charizard to finish the fight. Oh yeah, and then right after that I go to the name raider to give my entire team nicknames because I forgot to do that, and that's illegal in a Nuzlocke. So did I technically lose the Nuzlocke? I don't know, your call. I just give them generic human names because I'm a very generic and boring person. Alright, time for Sabrina. I actually wasn't too worried about this battle since all of her Pokemon have low physical defense, so I decided to just solo her with Snorlax. I do get some bad Confusion Look against Venomoth, and Alakazam's Psychic brought me to 7 HP, but I was able to win regardless. I seriously need to start playing more cautiously. The Elite Four might be a rude awakening for me. And after some surfing, it's time to beat Blaine. Lapras gained quite a few levels in between since there were a lot of fire types. Still, Growlithe and Ponyta deal big damage with Fire Blast since I don't resist, so once I get to Rapidash, I decide to just use Snorlax instead since he has thick fat, making me resist fire moves. I take it out and last is Arcanine. However, even with the attack drop, I'm still dealing decent damage and I win pretty easily. And now, it's time for the final gym leader, Giovanni. Lapras makes quick work of his first 4 Pokemon as expected, although the Nidos did manage to get in some pretty big damage with Earthquake. And then for Dugtrio, it used Earthquake, bringing me to 21 HP, and I take it out. I was a little scared about Rival 6 since I'm quite underleveled. I lead with Muk, but I got low, so I had to finish it with Charizard. Second was Blastoise, so I switched to Snorlax to take it out with a few Body Slams. Third was Rhyhorn, and my heart sank as it started using Horn Drill. Thankfully, it never hit. Fourth was Alakazam, so I used Snorlax Body Slam, and then his Growlithe and Execute were easy to defeat. Well, thankfully I didn't lose anybody, but I'm pretty worried about the champion fight now. Yeah, so I made it this far, and I wasn't gonna lose so late in the game, so I used up all of my money on the Game Corner TMs, then grinded in Victory Road and around the map with the VS Seeker to a reasonable level, around the mid-50s. Not sure if it's high enough, but I don't want to be too overleveled, so let's hope I can win. Oh yeah, and I was considering using Tauros, but I decided that I'm gonna need somebody to put the enemy to sleep, so I'm keeping Butterfree. Alright, let's do this. First is Lorelei. I lead with Muk since I know her Dugong doesn't have a Psychic type attack. 2 Thunderbolts take it out. Second is Cloyster, and it uses Spikes, which might be a little annoying, but 1 Thunderbolt takes it out. Third is Slowbro, so I switch to Snorlax to put it to sleep with Yawn, and then I use a few Shadow Balls. Fourth is Lapras, so I keep Snorlax in and use Rock Slide. I get pretty low, but I do manage to take it out. Last is Jinx, but I resist Ice because of thick fat, and it's got bad defense, so it goes down really easily. Second is Bruno, and this battle was actually pretty scary. I used Butterfree to one-shot Onix with Giga Drain and then switched to Muk for Hitmonchan since I know that he doesn't have any good attacks for it. I take it out with 2 Sludge Bombs, and for a second Onix, I was going to switch to Butterfree, but I misclicked and accidentally attack and go down to 12 HP from Earthquake. I switch the next turn and take Onix out, but not before taking 2 Double Edges. That was scary. I saved Butterfree just for Machamp though, and I put it to sleep and used 2 Psybeams, but I'm scared that he's gonna wake up, so I switch to Primeape, and Cross Chop barely takes it out. Last is Hitmonlee, but a crit Cross Chop one-shots it. Wow, that could have been way worse had I gotten worse luck. Third is Agatha. I thought this would be a joke with Snorlax, but she has Toxic, and my Shadow Ball surprisingly didn't one-shot Gengar, so this is bad. I do eventually take her first Gengar out, but this isn't looking too good. Second is Arbok, so I switched to Charizard, but she poisons me with Sludge Bomb. Of course. Just my luck. I switched to Primeape since it has Earthquake, and she crits with Sludge Bomb to take me out. Oh my god. Am I going to lose? I take it out with a crit Fire Blast from Muck, and fourth is Haunter. It uses Curse as I switch to Butterfree, but I take it out without fainting. Last is her second Gengar, so I switched to Snorlax, and it was incredibly close, but I managed to survive on just 18 HP. Thank god I didn't lose Snorlax too. Fourth is Lance. I thought about it a bit and I decided to give Muck the leftovers since my strategy is to use 2 Acid Armors to be able to tank Aerodactyl, then one-shot Gyarados with Thunderbolt. Now, Aerodactyl barely does anything and I'm able to take it out with 2 Thunderbolts. Third is Dragonite, but it goes for Outrage, a special move. Thankfully though, my Sludge Bomb poisons it. I think for a bit and decide to risk another attack hoping that I'd survive a second Outrage, and I do at just 2 HP. It gets confused, so now I can take it out with Lapras, but I get hit pretty hard. I use Snorlax for Dragonair, and I do one-shot the first with a crit Body Slam, but then his second one gets a crit Hyper Beam to almost make me faint as I finish it. Wow, now that was an interesting fight. And finally, we have the champion, but it's a 5v6. I lead with Muck to try and two-shot his Pidgeot with Thunderbolt, but he switches to Rhydon, so I switch to Butterfree to nullify Earthquake. I put it to sleep, then set up Safeguard, but then he wakes up the next turn and takes me out with Rock Tomb. Okay, that's not great. I switch to Lapras and I outspeed and take it out. Next is Executor, so I switch to Charizard, and then he uses Sleep Powder for some reason, even though I have Safeguard. Well, thanks for the free turn, I guess. Anyway, next is Blastoise, so I switch back to Lapras to absorb his water attacks, and then 3-shot him with Thunderbolt. Next is his Pidgeot again, but it's paralyzed, so I outspeed and just take it out. Fifth is Alakazam, so I switch to Snorlax, and even though he sets up Reflect, Shadow Ball does just enough to two-shot it. And last is Arcanine, but now it's a 4 against 1. I use Yawn to put him to sleep, then finish him off with a few serves from Lapras. And that's it. I Nuzlocked Pokemon FireRed while only being able to use Ash's Kanto Pokemon. Considering that this was my first ever Nuzlocke challenge, I think I did pretty alright. I did get some bad luck towards the end and made a few bad plays, but I still managed to win with 4 of my members alive. Anyway, that was pretty fun, and strangely intense at some points. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, and also let me know if you want to see me do more of these character playthroughs. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.